All right, all right.
Switch your damn thing, Capper.
Good morning, sir.
Good
Or I guess good afternoon.
afternoon.
I apologize. We're live at noon, like we said we would be. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Flightdeck Live. We are doing our reaction to the final cuts for the Montreal Alouettes. A lot of players were released. A lot of players were added to the practice roster, and we're here to share our thoughts on this. Tim?
Yeah, it's going to be it's not going to be a full in-depth thing. We want to save something for the podcast on Wednesday, so.
Yeah. As I say, content is king, but yeah, at the end of the day, we still have to take care of the actual podcast itself. But we just want to get our quick thoughts out on the moves that were made last night by the Montreal Alouettes. I mean, obviously you can't keep everybody. There's a lot of good players that unfortunately were shown the door. That's just the unfortunate aspect of this business. As I say, a great game, but a crappy business.
Right. I'm going to go ahead and start. By the way, Tim Capper, Cliffy D.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you right away, because I know you and I talked about it prior, of the players that were kept, based on what you saw on Friday, who were you surprised the most about?
I guess I'm a little bit surprised with Kabian Ento, and it's funny because training camp, the sessions that we went to, he played extremely well. We even said to Noel Thorpe, defensive coordinator, that you got a baller here. This is a guy that this could be really something special, and he agreed. He said, "Yeah, this is a kid who's just done everything right in camp so far, and really excited to see what he does on the field." And the first game versus Ottawa, he played pretty decent. He was very well aware of his surroundings. Didn't look like the game was too much for him, but this past Friday at home against Hamilton, he got burnt like toast, to tell you the truth. It was just a couple of big plays. I thought, ooh, God, maybe this isn't it. Maybe he's not who we think he is. Or maybe it was just a bad day at the office. I'm guessing the fact that the Alouettes are keeping him on the practice roster. He's not even on the practice roster, is he? He's actually is. Oh no, my apologies. He is on the practice roster. So clearly the Alouettes do see something in him. I mean, like I said, everybody makes mistakes, but on a stage like this, when essentially it's your final job interview before the final roster is made, like this is your last chance to make an impression, and he, like I said, did not play the best game. I'm not saying he's not talented, but he just perhaps didn't have, maybe the moment at that point was a little bit too big for him.
Yeah, and we were talking about having good days and bad days. We've seen it's basically been it has been kind of an up and down camp for Davis Alexander. Obviously, we didn't think that he was going to be one of the cuts that were going to be made based off of based on his. It's funny to say a 2-year guy with his pedigree, but he does. He really does have a pedigree so far with the Alouettes and how well he's done and how well the organization has spoken about him. But he balled out on Friday, and he's the guy who we expected it to be.
No, exactly. And you talk about Davis Alexander, like he proved that he definitely belongs on this team 100%. As far as I'm concerned, he is quarterback number 2 for this team and could very well become a superstar in this league as he gets older, as he's got the experience, more and more experience in. He looked sharp as heck. He looked really, really good. That one heave that he threw to John Brunner, oh my, I mean, that was just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Well, going through the, let's look at the guys who were released real quickly. I mean, any of the names really stand out to you? I mean, as we know, our fourth quarterback, Mike Glass, was released. I don't know, because you brought up a question off air to me yesterday, where it was like, who are we going to have a fourth quarterback, and for our practice roster? Mm-hmm. The Owls quite a bit last year really only went with 3. Even though, there was a practice roster spot available. Surprised that Mike Glass was cut?
I was, because the team was extremely high on him, and he came in with, I won't say a lot of hype, but he definitely had hype to him. Definitely played extremely well at Eastern Michigan, which, let's not forget, is Eric Deslauriers's alma mater. So that he's probably, no doubt he was rooting for him to succeed and really make an impact on this roster. And unfortunately, he just really saw limited action in those 2 preseason games. I mean, like he essentially went in for the last series to move the ball downfield just an extra 10 yards and then get into victory formation. That was the extent of Mike Glass's evening. I mean, I don't think he even washed his jersey, to tell you the truth. I mean, that's just how little action he saw, unfortunately. And it's tough because, I mean, you wanted to see this past Friday what Cody Fajardo can do. You wanted to see what Caleb Evans and Davis Alexander can do, but you also wanted to see what Mike Glass could do. No doubt, too, he was probably chomping at the bit to get on the field and do something as well. And other than just a quick handoff, a kneel down, and that's it. I mean, that's, based on that, you're not showing off everything you can do, but that's not his fault. I mean, the team really decided, okay, we're going to focus on the first three guys, and Glass essentially was just given table scraps to work with, which is unfortunate, but as we said, football is a great game, but a lousy business.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see once the depth chart comes out, who will be our second and third, how they will be ranked there, because we obviously know Cody Fajardo, who did really well, and we'll talk about more on the podcast this Wednesday. But it'll be interesting to see where these guys are going to be basically 2 and 3. So any quick hints, teasers for what you're going to say on the show?
Well, before we get into that, there was another player I was a little surprised to see released, but was Rodim Brown, who was I believe the second or third pick last year in the draft. I guess it was a second round pick, I should say, in the draft. I thought a guy out of University of Alberta that was just extremely talented. Seemed like the kind of guy that you wanted on the offensive line. I mean, a tough national player who is not afraid to get his hands dirty. But I have to say, throughout camp, I barely noticed he was there. So I wonder if that was one of the reasons why they found him expendable. You take a look at this offensive line, and there's just so much talent on there. I mean, to try and crack that roster is easier said than done, and maybe that's really what it came down to. Was Rodim was just one of the unfortunate victims of the numbers game. I always say you can't have too many good national offensive linemen, and I guess maybe the Alouettes feel, no, maybe you can, because there's just so much talent on this offensive line that, unfortunately, Rodim, who I think will latch on somewhere else, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if maybe he heads home, so to speak, and maybe it lands in Calgary or Edmonton on their practice roster. But it's unfortunate because, as I said, definitely think there's talent there. It's just a matter of, is there a spot for him on this roster? And as it stands, no, there's not.
What about the one which this is what I'm coming up with, because there seemed to be a lot of talk with this particular player who was released, and he could be given the tag of Fabian Garrow for 2023. Reggie Stubblefield. Surprised? I mean, everybody's saying that they're very surprised that he was released from the team.
Yeah, but although I will say that the 2 preseason games that he was in, I saw him play. I saw his jersey. He was definitely on the field. But once again, preseason is where you have to make your bones. You have to get out there. You have to make plays. Even if you don't think the plays are there, you have to find a way to make plays happen. And unfortunately, Reggie, you can tell he's a hard worker. You can tell someone that is very much an integral part of this team, but through a camp, I should say. But I honestly didn't see him do anything of note, like anything that really stood out in those 2 preseason games. So I guess the Alouettes felt the same way, that, okay, yeah, you were great in camp. You definitely did the work in camp. But, I mean, when it comes to game time, when the lights are on, you have to make it happen. And unfortunately, Reggie just didn't do anything. Like, he did his job, but he just didn't do anything outstanding. Something that would make someone say, oh, yeah, he's got to stay on the roster, 100%.
Yeah. And say we're probably going to go about another 5 minutes or so. We don't want to take away too much from the show this Wednesday. But looking at the players who actually did make the roster, the active roster, or just the roster, even if it is the practice roster in general, names that stood out to you. I'll go first. I'm actually very surprised that the Alouettes have kept another kicker and another punter. But considering how well Jose Maltas did in Ottawa for the first game, I'm not surprised. But you know what? Considering that we just re-signed a couple of our main kickers to another contract, to me, this is a very surprising for the Alouettes to do this.
A bit, yeah. Now, mind you, they're going to be on the practice roster, but the fact that they're still being maintained is a bit surprising. I agree, but Jose Maltos definitely did the work. Reese Jean definitely looked solid in his limited action as well. And it's one of those things, too, when it comes to kickers, and believe me, the folks in Winnipeg definitely understand how important having a good kicker is in the roster. I mean, even at one point they had, 6 kickers in their training camp lineup. So they knew that they had to, and then they ended up getting Sergio Castillo back. So I think that right there says it all as far as how important it is to have a good kicker. And David Cote and Joseph Zima are straight up dogs. They are ballers. These are guys that belong on the roster, full stop. But it doesn't hurt to have another ace up the sleeve. And I think Jose Maltos can definitely be that for the Montreal Alouettes if called upon. If, God forbid, David Cote goes down to injury, you've got Maltos on your practice roster, ready to go, and that's going to be a tremendous help for this team.
Yeah. Now let's. What about you? Now let's talk about these new Alouette rookies. I mean, we have some pretty interesting guys here that have made the roster going forward.
Yeah, Israel Antoine, that guy is a beast, and he is going to be an impact player, which, as we've talked about, making this defensive line, as you know, the Alouettes have spent a lot of time, money, draft picks, effort, doing whatever it takes to improve this defensive line, and he comes in almost out of nowhere and just is a demon. Like, he had 2 sacks against Hamilton this week and just looked so impressive, and definitely there's a lot of hype behind him. A lot of the players, you can tell, are really pumping his tires a little bit too. So he's got to be feeling really good about making this lineup. I am a bit surprised, but maybe I shouldn't be, with Keshan Abram making the active roster. As I said, throughout camp, did amazing. Was just outstanding in his work, but in his 2 preseason games, he was there and did okay, but really didn't do anything outstanding. Nothing jaw-dropping that suggested, oh yeah, 100% this guy's got to be on the team. Again, could just be a simple matter of the plays just weren't there for him to be able to do so, but I guess I'm pleasantly surprised that he's on the roster, because if he's as talented as we expected him to be, and from what we saw in training camp, then yeah, this could be one of those diamonds in the rough. But to me, I think it's going to be the Courtney Davis, who I'm very glad is on the practice roster, Shedler Furvius also on the practice roster. Those are 2 guys that make plays happen as well. And I mean, Courtney Davis, if you're going to wear 87, if you're going to wear Gino Lewis's number, you better be outstanding. So whether or not he's going to get it or keep it, I don't know. I mean, I still think there should have been a bit of a moratorium on Gino's number, but okay, you know what? If you're going to wear it.
I remember, it may change. Same thing with Furbius, or maybe a change, so you never know what's coming with the active roster.
No.
Once they actually, these are the numbers that they were currently wearing in preseason, so you never know.
No, that's it. I mean, you're assigned the number you're assigned, and you shut your mouth about it. But once you get on this roster and you start making things happen, then at that point you can say, you know what, if such and such a number is available, do you think I can get that? And usually the team's pretty good about that. So as long as you don't want 13 or 86, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. Last thought on Austin Mack, wide receiver Austin Mack making the active roster.
Oh, thrilled. Absolutely thrilled, because he's the kind of guy that I think will be a replacement, if you will, for Gino Lewis, because he has made plays happen throughout camp in his preseason games. Didn't see a whole lot of action, but the 1 or 2 catches he did make in the game versus Hamilton did an outstanding job. It was almost just like, okay, no, just go out there for the sake of being out there and having Cody throw you a pass or 2. It was just, that's to me what it felt like. It's like, okay, your job is safe. You're good. You're good. You can stay put. And I think that's what it is. And I'm very excited to see what Austin Mack can do in honest-to-goodness game action. I think he's going to be one of those players that will be, again, not a replacement for Eugene Lewis. You cannot replace Gene Lewis, full stop. Yeah. But this is one of those guys that will be someone that you're going to be very excited to see on game day, along with the Keon Julian Grants, Tyson Philpott, Hergy Mayala, like the other receivers on this team that are going to be, I think, honestly, very dangerous for the Alouettes this year.
So make sure you stay tuned for our full podcast and our full reaction to the new roster for the 2023 Montreal Alouettes. Again, it will be available on all of our socials and in any podcast aggregate it will be available on YouTube also. So make sure you stay tuned for the show on Wednesday. But if you want to reach out to us, please do so. You can over on Twitter at Alouettes FLTech, Cliffy over at CliffyD, and myself at Repacked. So, hey, Cliffy, have a very good Sunday, sir.
Yes, indeed. And folks, don't forget, the contest for the flight crew seats is live. Make sure you check that out. Again, folks, we're giving away tickets not only for the home opener, but you're going to see Our Lady Peace as well at halftime. I feel like we're at a radio station. Hey, the 10th caller gets 10 free tickets to Our Lady Peace. But no, we're very excited about being able to give out these seats as we are. Home opener, folks, June 10th as I said, there's going to be a flyover. There's going to be so much happening. It's going to be an absolutely incredible night of football and so much more. So if you get a chance, check out the links. Go to alouettesflightdeck.ca. Follow us on socials. We're pretty much everywhere. Anywhere you find the podcast as well, check it out. Make sure you enter the contest. Make sure you win those flight crew seats. And it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be rocking. It is going to be a fantastic evening. And we're going to dive into this even further this week on the Flight Deck podcast. So make sure you tune in for that. Make sure you subscribe. Leave comments in the links below as well. Make sure you are a part of this.
And then all the links are also available if you're watching us still here on Instagram. They're available up in our profile in our link tree.
100%. So very excited for this. Like I said, now that we have an idea of where this team is going, let's see what the practice week what unfolds during the practice week. And man, it's happening, Tim. It is finally happening. Now we get a bit of a direction of where we're going, and it's football time, baby.
Exactly. So, guys, we'll see you on Wednesday, and we'll talk more about the upcoming matchup for the home opener and season opener for the Montreal Alouettes this Saturday at 7 p.m. at Percival Molson Stadium versus the Ottawa Redblacks. Cliff, again, have a good Sunday, sir, and I'll talk to you soon.
You betcha. Take care, folks.